My childhood sweetheart had always played hot and cold with me, yet she accepted all my affection and every little thing I did for her. She loved to joke around, saying things that made me think, just for a moment, that she felt the same. Then came the day she was leaving the country to chase after some guy, and she asked me to see her off at the airport. If one day I come back alone, we'll get married, okay? I didn't spoil the moment. I smiled just like I always had and nodded. Okay, that was the moment I finally grew up. Chloe Davis and I had known each other since we were kids, practically joined at the hip. I've been secretly in love with her for just as long. She took all my gestures of affection. Let me look out for her, but whenever I tried to get closer, she'd pull back, keeping me at arm's length. Every time I'd steel myself to give her space, she'd reappear, wanting me to hang out, do this or that with her. I figured she must like me at least a little, so I kept on being there for her, no questions asked. One night, she called me, drunk, asking for a ride home. Her eyes were hazy as she draped her arms around my neck. "Ethan Miller, you're so good to me. We should be together." Happiness hit me so suddenly, my brain just short-circuited. Before I could even react, Chloe leaned her head on my shoulder, a playful smile on her face. "Just kidding. You didn't actually believe me, did you?" It was like a bucket of ice water dumped over me. All I could do was pretend it didn't faze me. Of course not. I'm not that gullible. She always did that, saying things that blurred the lines, sudden confessions, or teasing about moving in with me. Just when my hopes would soar, she'd bring me crashing back down. I guess when you know someone loves you, you feel like you can get away with anything. And me? I just let her. Whatever she wanted, she got. When it got too much, I'd tell myself, just being near her is good enough. I thought we'd go on like that forever, until the day a guy named Daniel Wright showed up. Around him, Chloe lost all her usual confidence. She was like a naive kid, using silly tricks just to get his attention. She'd always tell me about her interactions with him. It tore me apart, but I had to act like it was nothing, encouraging her to keep trying. I thought, someday, she'll realize who truly loves her most in this world. I could wait. But then, not long after, she told me she was moving abroad. That day, it hit me. She didn't love me. She was just used to me always being there, unconditionally. The realization floored me. For the first time, I lost my composure and just ran. I spent a day moping at home. Then her call came. She wanted me to see her off. I knew I should say no decisively, but I couldn't bring myself to let go of her. Loving her had become a habit. So, I decided to be brave just once for myself. I hesitated for a long time. Finally, as the boarding call echoed through the terminal, I grabbed her hand, a feeling of grim determination washing over me. Moving abroad isn't as easy as it sounds. You won't know anyone. I'm worried you won't adjust. Chloe, stay okay? For me. She pulled her hand away firmly, smiling. This time I have to go. If one day I come back alone, we'll get married, okay? If this had been before, I would have been ecstatic, nodding eagerly, terrified she'd change her mind. But now, a wave of exhaustion washed over me. I think I was finally free from this one-sided infatuation. I pushed down the turmoil inside me, and just like all those times before, said casually, sure. Getting the answer she wanted, Chloe turned, satisfied, and headed for a gate. She had no idea that with those words, she'd severed the last thread of hope I'd clung to. I didn't watch her leave like I usually did. I turned sharply and walked away, quick and decisive, because that tightly wound string inside me had finally snapped. A year later, she came back alone. Same airport, and I was the one there to pick her up. When she saw me, she threw her arms around me in an enthusiastic hug. "Ethan, I missed you so much." Then, she linked her arm through mine, familiarly, and started complaining about how tough it had been living overseas. A year apart, and she was still as beautiful as ever, every smile and glance full of charm. I subtly glanced at the arm she was holding, lost in thought for a second. Her gesture was so natural, like she'd done a million times. That casual display of trust always used to make my head spin, an intoxicating feeling I couldn't resist. But now, all I could think about were those thoughtless jokes of hers that had kept me up so many nights. The thought brought a fresh wave of tiny, sharp pains to my chest. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly to myself. I'd always read too much meaning into these intimate gestures. Unfortunately, what I thought was significant meant nothing to her. She was always on her pedestal, enjoying the power she had over me. I was just a distraction for when she was bored. Whatever. A guy's got to be able to take things in stride, and also let them go. I told myself that, pushing down the storm raging inside me, and just listen to her talk. As if sensing my lack of enthusiasm, Chloe blinked and stared at me, a flicker of suspicion in her eyes. Normally, I would have picked up on her mood change instantly. But this time, I didn't notice a thing, still focused on driving. Chloe said, trying to sound casual, "Ethan, have you been really busy lately?" The light turned red, and I stopped the car, looking at her, puzzled. "It's been all right." Chloe looked at me silently, her eyes filled with a mix of emotions I couldn't decipher. No, maybe I never really understood her at all. This time, I didn't bother trying to guess. I glanced at the traffic light, started the car, and kept going. Sensing my distance, Chloe, completely out of character, took the initiative to break the silence. "Ethan, I'm starving. Let's go get something to eat." I nodded. "How about that new Cajun place?" Chloe's face lit up. "You remembered I love spicy food. You know, that's what I missed most when I was away." I smiled. "Well, make sure you eat a lot then. My treat. Welcome home." Chloe looked pleased and, settled in the passenger seat, continued to chatter about funny stories from when we were kids. Thinking about the past brought a wave of nostalgia over me. We were so carefree back then. I used to think that when I grew up, I'd marry her, just like I'd always dreamed. Unfortunately, things didn't turn out that way. I took Chloe to the Szechuan restaurant my assistant had recommended. Once we were seated, I politely handed her the menu. "See what you like." A flicker of hurt crossed Chloe's eyes. She didn't take it, just blinked at me. "Ethan, you pick." I didn't insist. I ordered a few dishes based on our old favorites and added a couple of the restaurant specialties my assistant had mentioned. Chloe's gaze was locked on me. When she heard me accurately list her favorite dishes, the gloominess vanished from her face, and her eyes sparkled as she looked at me, a determined glint in them. At the table, Chloe tried hard to liven things up, bringing up embarrassing stories from her time abroad. I laughed out loud, and the meal was pleasant enough for both of us. After we'd eaten and drunk our fill, I paid the bill and then looked at Chloe behind me. "Let's go. I'll take you home." Chloe linked her arm through mine, playfully. "I'm so full. Let's go for a walk in the park, burn some of this off." I glanced at my watch. It was still early, so I nodded. "All right." Just as we stepped out of the restaurant, Chloe subtly moved closer to me, her fingers intertwining with mine. Her hand was a bit cold, sending a shiver through me. Not wanting her ambiguous actions to stir up unnecessary emotions, I used the excuse of pulling out my phone to naturally break her grip. Chloe's smile froze on her face. She stood there, stunned, staring at me. I turned back, acting casual. "Let's go. Didn't you say you wanted to go to the park?" Chloe forced an awkward smile. "Ethan, I want some ice cream." I nodded. "Sure. Strawberry." Chloe nodded, looking at me thoughtfully, as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. I smiled and went into the shop, buying her a scoop of ice cream. She took it, eating it slowly, one small bite at a time. We walked silently along the park's wooded path, the atmosphere suddenly a bit awkward. A cold breeze blew past. Chloe shivered and hunched her shoulders. I sighed, then, like a gentleman, took off my jacket and handed it to her. "It's chilly out. Put this on." Chloe stared at the jacket in my hand, then met my eyes, testing the waters. "Let's get married." I nodded, smiling just like I always had. "Okay, now, hurry up and put the jacket on." She seemed to realize something, her expression serious, as she emphasized, "I'm serious." I nodded calmly. "Okay, I know." Chloe brightened at my words. "So you're saying yes." I just shrugged and nodded with a smile. At this point, even if she said 1 + 1 = 3, I wouldn't argue with her. After all, this was just another one of her ways to control me, and I'd long since wised up. I wouldn't let her ambiguous words and actions get to me anymore. Seeing my composed expression, Chloe finally smiled, relieved. The moon was beautiful that night. We sat in the park for a long time. She vividly described her experiences abroad, then earnestly spoke of how much she'd missed me. I could clearly feel her trying to close the distance between us, to erase the gap this past year had created. But my heart, already broken by her, wouldn't soften for her words or actions anymore. I knew very well she didn't love me. Her urgency was just because she wasn't used to the person who'd always doted on her suddenly not fawning over her. And I would stick to my resolve, absolutely refusing to make the same mistake again. I took her home and even thoughtfully helped carry her luggage into her apartment. Chloe winked suggestively. "Want to stay the night?" Ethan really wanted to tell her she'd played this card before, and he wasn't going to be like some clueless rookie, flustered and unsure. But in the end, Ethan just replied lightly, "Sure." A flash of triumph crossed Chloe's face. She probably thought Ethan was still just as predictable. What she didn't expect was that after putting the luggage in the living room, Ethan would turn to say goodbye. "I'm gonna head out. Call me if you need anything." Chloe looked completely stunned. Only then did she realize Ethan hadn't taken her invitation seriously at all. Watching Ethan's retreating back, Chloe's heart was a jumble of emotions. Tonight, she'd clearly felt his distance, his coolness. He'd changed. He talked less, and he no longer revolved around her like he used to. He didn't even react to her blatantly suggestive invitation. It finally dawned on her that her ditching everything to chase after Daniel right abroad must have hurt him, must have made him resentful. But Ethan was still considerate. He hadn't completely ignored her. Didn't that prove he still had feelings for her deep down? He was just angry at her for leaving so recklessly. But that was okay. She was confident she could win Ethan back. After all, everyone knew how much he doted on her, how much effort he put in, and her time abroad had made her realize, with absolute clarity, who the right man for her truly was. Even before coming back, she decided she was going to be with Ethan. She would marry him, and they'd build a good life together. The next day, Chloe decided to take the offensive. She changed into a flattering dress, put on meticulous makeup, and, teetering on high heels, went to find Ethan full of enthusiasm. Who would have thought Ethan would actually be busy and turn down her invitation? Chloe feigned understanding. "It's okay, I'll just wait here. When you're done, we could go get dinner together, all right?" Ethan glanced at her briefly, unconcerned. "Sure, if you get bored, you can watch TV." With that, he went back to poring over the documents in his hand, not even sparing her a sideways glance. She didn't get annoyed, patiently sitting on the nearby sofa, idly scrolling through her phone on TikTok. Before she knew it, it was dinner time, and Ethan still showed no signs of finishing up. Chloe, feeling neglected, started to get a little upset. "Ethan, I'm hungry." Ethan instinctively glanced at his watch, looking apologetic. "Sorry, I got caught up and lost track of time." Chloe said pointedly, "I don't care. You have to take responsibility for me." Ethan nodded calmly. "All right, Szechuan okay." Chloe was a little disappointed. She realized Ethan had changed, but she couldn't quite pinpoint how. He was still like before, letting her have her way, indulging her, but something was definitely different. It felt like there was an invisible wall between her and Ethan. During dinner, Chloe was somewhat distracted and ate very little. Ethan put down his chopsticks and politely asked, "Are you full?" Chloe nodded petulantly. To her surprise, Ethan actually called the waiter over to get the check. In that moment, Chloe knew her earlier feeling wasn't wrong. Ethan had truly changed. She had a sensitive stomach and got stomach aches easily. Before, Ethan would go to great lengths to coax her into eating a few more bites. But today, she'd barely touched her food, and Ethan had only asked perfunctorily before deciding to pay. He didn't seem to care about her anymore. He didn't care about her opinions, wasn't concerned about her mood, and didn't interfere with her actions. He treated her like a regular girl next door. This realization threw Chloe into a bit of panic. Before, she'd taken Ethan's affection for granted, doing whatever she pleased with impunity. And Ethan had always accepted it all, which inadvertently fueled her demanding attitude, making her treat him even more casually. Only now did she realize how cruel it was to disappoint someone who was full of hope and expectation. Like Ethan used to be, and like she was now, she had recklessly squandered Ethan's trust, to the point where now, no matter what she said, Ethan automatically assumed she was joking. Ethan didn't believe her. He no longer took her words seriously, and he never would again. The thought of this possibility sent an indescribable wave of panic through Chloe. But she wasn't willing to give up just like that. After all, Ethan loved her so much. She couldn't believe he'd let go of her so easily. She decided to turn over a new leaf to win back Ethan's heart. It just so happened to be their old high school's homecoming weekend, and Chloe proactively invited Ethan to visit the school's art exhibition. Ethan agreed to go, and Chloe was overjoyed. Ethan hadn't refused her. Didn't that mean he still couldn't let her go? She eagerly anticipated that revisiting old haunts would reawaken Ethan's past feelings for her. As the two strolled through the campus, the one afraid of awkward silences had shifted from Ethan to Chloe. Reaping what she sowed, Chloe felt a mix of emotions, her determination to win Ethan over growing even stronger. She took the initiative to hold Ethan's hand, reminiscing about the past with him. Memories flashed through Ethan's mind like a slideshow, a nostalgic look on his face. Chloe felt greatly encouraged and seized the opportunity to confess, "Ethan, I like you." Ethan met her gaze calmly, thinking she's used this line before too. Then he said softly, "Okay, I know." Chloe wouldn't give up. "I said I like you. For real." I know. But his expression remained indifferent, clearly not taking her seriously. Chloe was exasperated and stormed ahead angrily. In the past, Ethan would have anxiously tried to placate her. But now, Ethan was unfazed, merely following her at a leisurely pace. Chloe instantly deflated. She turned back, looking pitiful. Ethan, are you mad at me? Ethan looked confused. Why would I be mad at you? Before, it was his one-sided infatuation. Chloe just didn't love him. What fault was that of hers? And now he simply didn't care anymore, so he wouldn't get worked up over her. Chloe couldn't explain it. This Ethan felt so unfamiliar to her. She forced a smile and casually changed the subject. Let's go see the art exhibit. Ethan saw through Chloe's strained attempt and replied, okay. Remembering the purpose of their outing, Chloe pulled Ethan directly to her painting. The painting depicted Ethan in a white shirt, riding a bicycle with Chloe on the back. Its title was Childhood Sweethearts. Chloe looked expectant. Ethan, I painted this myself. Is it good? Ethan nodded, genuinely praising. Excellent technique. Just what I'd expect from you. Chloe looked astonished. That's it. She pressed him. Looking at this painting, doesn't it make you think of anything else? Ethan vaguely guessed her intention, which he found utterly ridiculous. He could even imagine that if he reacted with the same excitement as before, Chloe would again casually say, just kidding. This game of giving a candy, then a slap, hadn't she tired of it after so many times? Unfortunately, she was bound to be disappointed this time. He had long since decided. He wasn't playing her games anymore. So, Ethan deliberately asked, what else am I supposed to think of? Chloe looked at him silently, as if searching his face for evidence that he was lying. Ethan calmly let her scrutinize him, his expression composed. Chloe's eyes couldn't help but redden. She demanded, Ethan, what on earth is wrong with you? Facing a completely bewildered Ethan, Chloe felt like she was punching cotton, utterly helpless. She burst out in frustration. Ethan, it's so obvious, and you still don't get it. Are you an idiot? She thought Ethan would get angry, would argue with her like he used to. But he didn't. He just stood there quietly, calmly admitting, I genuinely don't know the first thing about art. Chloe was speechless, fuming and stomping her foot. Ethan, you're infuriating. Ethan wasn't annoyed either, smiling. Painting and design are outside my wheelhouse. Next time, remember to bring someone who shares your interest. Chloe instinctively retorted, I don't want anyone else. I only want you. Ethan nodded. If you wanted to come along, that's fine too. There it was again. Chloe's chest was tight with anger. She shot Ethan a resentful glare. One plan failed, so Chloe concocted another. Using the excuse of her return, she organized a reunion for their old classmates. She invited everyone who had witnessed Ethan's grand, public pursuit of her back in the day. She specifically asked a few classmates privately to help her win Ethan back. These were the same people who had, overtly and covertly, advised her to cherish the man in front of her. With their support, she was sure she'd be much more successful. On the night of the reunion, she made sure to dress to the nines. When she walked in, arm in arm with Ethan, the classmates, who loved a bit of drama, started hooting and hollering. She peeked at Ethan, only to see him expertly deflecting their teasing, an indescribable charm about him. The thought that this man would soon be hers filled Chloe with a surge of pride. Ethan was very attentive, serving her food and soup. Under the knowing, teasing gazes of the others, Chloe felt uncharacteristically shy. After a few rounds of drinks, people started reminiscing about old times, and someone brought up her and Ethan. So many years have passed, and you two are still together. It's really enviable. Yeah, when are you guys getting married? You have to remember to invite us. Chloe looked at Ethan, a little bashfully. That depends on what Ethan wants. The classmates present got even more excited, eagerly pressing Ethan for an answer. Ethan felt a bit exasperated. He didn't understand why Chloe always liked to dump the problem on him. It was like that before, and it was still like that now. When it came to him, Chloe always acted so entitled, even when she was the one who started it all. He smiled. How could we forget you all for the wedding? It's been so long. Let's all have a drink together. Ethan still didn't believe her. A flicker of disappointment crossed Chloe's eyes. She picked up her glass and downed a large gulp morosely. Turning her head, she saw Ethan pour a glass of warm water and place it in front of her. Her heart warmed, and she was just about to thank him when she noticed Ethan casually hand a glass to the girl sitting on his other side as well. The words of thanks died in her throat. Chloe felt like crying. Ethan used to only be this good to her. But now he was actively demonstrating that she, Chloe, was no different from any other woman. She didn't understand why Ethan had changed so much after she'd gone abroad. The more she thought about it, the more upset she became. She abruptly stood up and, under the astonished gazes of everyone, mumbled an excuse and hastily left. Ethan quickly followed her out and grabbed her arm. It's late, I'll take you home. Chloe suddenly felt overwhelmed with grievances, tears welling up in her eyes. A hint of surprise flickered in Ethan's eyes. Then he silently offered her a tissue. Chloe slapped his hand away, saying angrily, "I don't need your concern." Ethan sighed. "It's late. It's not safe for you to be alone. Let me take you home." Chloe ignored him, stomping forward in her high heels, fuming. Ethan felt a bit helpless, but could only follow her silently. Regardless of who it was, as a man, he couldn't just let a woman he knew walk home alone late at night. Chloe didn't get far before she twisted her ankle and squatted on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. Ethan didn't approach immediately. He quietly waited until she had cried her fill before silently stepping forward to help her up. Chloe leaned into his embrace, her voice choked with tears. "Ethan, I like you, do you hear me? I like you." Ethan sighed. "I know. It's late. Let me take you home." Chloe exploded. She angrily grabbed the front of his shirt, roaring, "Ethan, I said I like you. I'm not kidding. I, Chloe Davis, like you, Ethan Miller." Ethan was surprised for a moment. He looked at the disheveled Chloe before him, a flicker of pity in his eyes. But then he remembered how he used to be practically groveling at her feet, and he absolutely would not allow himself to repeat that mistake. She might be somewhat sincere, but he would never gamble the happiness of the rest of his life on a possibility that was already a foregone conclusion. So, he calmly pulled her hands away and said, just like before, "I know. It's late. Let me take you home." Faced with an unyielding Ethan, Chloe was completely out of options. After that night, Chloe sulked at home for 3 days. She thought that if she suddenly disappeared, Ethan would surely come to apologize and then coax her like he used to. But she never imagined that if she didn't contact Ethan, Ethan would simply vanish from her world. In those 3 days, not a single phone call, not even a text message asking how she was. Chloe couldn't stand it anymore. Furious, she stormed over to his place. She couldn't take it. If this continued, she would go crazy. She had to have it out with Ethan. Right now. Immediately. When she found Ethan, he had just finished a run, glistening with sweat, exuding an intoxicating, masculine scent. Chloe couldn't help but stare, captivated. Ethan took a sip of water and asked her, "What brings you here?" Chloe snapped back to reality, remembered her purpose, and got straight to the point. "I've thought it through. Let's get married. I swear to you, this time I'm serious." Ethan didn't even look up, just nodded with the same smile as before. "Okay, I know." Chloe, dissatisfied, rushed in front of him, spreading her arms to block his path. "Look at me. I'm serious. Let's get married." Ethan patiently pulled her hands away, smiling gently. Okay. I'm going to take a shower." With that, he stood up, walked past Chloe, grabbed a change of clothes, and went into the bathroom. Chloe was furious, glaring at the man, strolling casually, so angry she couldn't speak for a long moment. Fine, then don't blame her for resorting to drastic measures. When Ethan came out of the shower, he found Chloe still there and casually asked, "Is there anything else?" She glanced at Ethan with a look of determination and suggested, "I'm so bored. Have a drink with me tonight?" Ethan thought for a moment. All right. Getting the answer she wanted, Chloe smiled with satisfaction. Since Ethan was playing hard to get, she'd just have to find a way to sleep with him. She refused to believe that, given his character, he could still be this cold and aloof after they'd been intimate. Once they were back together, she would definitely teach him a lesson. With that thought, she left excitedly to get ready. For tonight, she specifically changed into a figure-hugging outfit and applied makeup designed to be irresistibly alluring, a manslayer look. She was prepared to go all out and win Ethan over in one fell swoop. When she arrived, Ethan had already ordered appetizers and drinks. She walked up to him excitedly, twirling around to show off. "Do I look good?" Ethan looked up, nodding in approval. "Beautiful. You've reached a new level of gorgeous." Chloe nodded, satisfied, and proactively raised her glass. "Cheers. Let's not go home sober tonight." Ethan cooperatively raised his glass and downed it in one gulp. After a few drinks, Chloe was slightly tipsy. Emboldened by the alcohol, she daringly straddled Ethan's lap, her arms wrapped sensuously around his neck. Ethan let her hold him, meeting her hazy gaze, and chuckled softly. He found it all quite ridiculous. When he had been utterly devoted to her, Chloe had barely given him the time of day. Now that his heart was broken, she was suddenly eager to love him. And who knew if it was even genuine? It was all so pointless. Seeing Ethan didn't resist, Chloe grew bolder, pressing her full chest tightly against his. Her lips were mere millimeters from Ethan's. She met Ethan's gaze and parted her red lips. "Ethan, I love you. Let's get married, okay?" Ethan didn't flinch or move away, calmly saying, "Okay." Despite his words, Ethan's expression remained unchanged. Faced with the siren-like Chloe, he was still unmoved. Chloe felt a momentary pang of frustration. Did he not even have the most basic male desire for her? She didn't believe it. Their closely pressed bodies honestly told her that Ethan was attracted to her. Chloe didn't understand. She was being so forward. What was Ethan still holding back for? She bit her lip, then forced another sweet smile and assured him, "Ethan, I'm serious. I won't lie to you this time." Ethan smiled just like always. "I know, but that was all." No matter how Chloe hinted, overtly or subtly, or tried all sorts of flirtatious tricks, he remained perfectly composed. In the end, Chloe's plan failed once again. The more unattainable he was, the more Chloe's insides churned with frustration. She became obsessed, single-mindedly focused on conquering Ethan. She knew very well that no one in this world would tolerate her and love her like Ethan did. She wasn't young anymore, no matter how she looked at it. Ethan, whom she knew inside out, was undoubtedly the most suitable candidate for marriage. And besides, only he loved her more than he loved himself. Even so, she was confident she could make Ethan soften toward her again. She started to pay attention to him, learning to care for him, checking in on him daily with warm inquiries. The closer she got to him, the more clearly she realized how arrogant and foolish she had been. If not for her youthful ignorance, perhaps she and Ethan would have been happily together long ago. It was also at this moment that she clearly realized she knew nothing about him. Her declarations of love were too shallow. No wonder Ethan wouldn't believe her no matter how much she poured her heart out. This was all her own doing. She resolved to mend her ways, proactively seeking him out, constantly trailing after him. She learned to understand him, care for him, and love him, just like Ethan used to do for her. Only then did she discover he had quit his job long ago and had become independent much earlier. The current Ethan had successfully established his own company. It wasn't large, but its prospects were promising. This Ethan made Chloe feel somewhat inadequate. She couldn't help but look at Ethan, who was engrossed in his work. Today he wore a well-fitting suit, his short hair neat, making him look exceptionally handsome. She noticed many female employees secretly glancing at him, but he remained modest and polite, treating everyone warmly and courteously with kindness and respect, without discrimination. It was at this moment that Chloe clearly understood. In his heart, she was no longer special. He treated her like a sister, like an old friend, but not like a lover. The more Chloe learned about Ethan, the more flustered she became. It turned out Ethan was that outstanding. It turned out he had already achieved success and financial freedom. It turned out so many women were smitten with him at first sight, relentlessly pursuing him, yet he remained aloof and discerning, preferring to be alone rather than settle. Thinking of this, Chloe couldn't help but feel a thrill of excitement. How incredibly lucky she was to have once possessed his deep affection. It was her fault for not recognizing his worth sooner. Otherwise, their children might already be old enough to run errands. Noticing her gaze, Ethan looked up. "What's wrong?" The moment their eyes met, Chloe's heart fluttered, and her cheeks couldn't help but blush. She quickly looked away, feigning composure. "Nothing." Ethan shook his head helplessly and returned to his work. Chloe couldn't resist sneaking glances at him. It had to be said, a man focused on his work was truly handsome on a whole new level. Having understood her own feelings, Chloe pursued him even more diligently. She found all sorts of excuses every day, appearing by Ethan's side without fail. She learned to be a supportive partner, occasionally preparing him thoughtful lunches or helping him with tasks she could manage. Ethan couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. Chloe had been showing up far too frequently lately, and she kept sneaking glances at him. He wondered what new trick she was up to, but no matter what, it was futile. There was no future for them. After work that day, Chloe pestered Ethan, insisting on going home with him. Ethan saw it was still early and didn't refuse, taking her back with him. As soon as they walked in the door, Chloe eagerly hugged Ethan from behind. She held him very tightly. Ethan couldn't break free for a moment. Chloe buried her face in Ethan's shoulder, saying shyly, "Ethan, I want to be with you. Take me." They were both adults. Ethan naturally understood the deeper meaning of her words. This was what he had once dreamed of most, but now that the moment had arrived, he only found it deeply ironic. This was the unrequited love of his youth, and now, something he desperately wanted to avoid. And Chloe was too self-assured. Did she really think he wouldn't know what she'd been up to while she was abroad? He forcefully broke her embrace and asked lightly, "Are you still a virgin?" Chloe froze on the spot. She opened her mouth several times but couldn't utter a word. She wanted to say she'd been tricked. She wanted to explain to him, but found it incredibly difficult to speak. Ethan's gaze was scrutinizing, his eyes icy. She felt completely exposed before him. Chloe understood what mattered to Ethan. He cared that he wasn't her first. He cared that she was only choosing him as a fallback. As if struck by a thought, she stammered. I can get hymenoplasty. Ethan was stunned for a second, then burst out laughing, doubling over, until tears streamed down his face. Do you think that has any meaning? You know what bothers me. Chloe's tears instantly fell like rain. She frantically grabbed Ethan's hand, pleading, Ethan, I know I was wrong. Please, give me another chance. I know this is my fault. Please, give me one more chance. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Ethan coldly shook her off. He didn't have a virginity complex, nor did he genuinely care if his woman had premarital sex. But Chloe was different. He had poured endless love and time into her. He couldn't accept that the rose he had personally nurtured had been picked by someone else first. He especially couldn't accept a rose, weathered by storms, attempting to return to the greenhouse. Chloe's presence was a constant reminder. The woman he deeply loved had eagerly offered herself to a man who didn't love her, rather than accept his genuine affection. The thought of the woman he loved, acting high and mighty in front of him, making things difficult for him in countless ways, only to then be beneath another man, made him feel an immense sense of shame. He could never, ever convince himself to accept her. Chloe, her eyes red, choked out. Does this mean I'll never have a chance? Ethan nodded, his voice heavy. Yes, I would rather die alone than ever reconcile with you. Chloe was a scar on his heart, one that would never heal. No matter how much time passed, he would always remember the humiliation Chloe had brought him, like being at her beck and call, dismissed at her whim, and mocked by others as Chloe's perennial backup plan, like her being betrayed by someone else, then turning around to find him to pick up the pieces. He had his own pride. He didn't need her pitying displays of affection. He could marry a divorced woman, or find a single mother to be his wife. Anyone would do, just not her. He could never make peace with the past, much less reconcile with Chloe. Chloe collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Ethan, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please give me a chance. Ethan remained unmoved, saying gravely, from now on, let's not see each other anymore. Hearing this, Chloe threw her arms around his leg, begging, Ethan, I don't want to. Ethan, don't be like this. Ethan, I'm begging you, don't be so cruel. Ethan wiped his face, his voice firm. It's late. I'll take you home. Chloe looked at him in disbelief, shaking her head wildly. But no matter how much she pleaded, Ethan would no longer soften towards her as he once had. The one who had recklessly trampled on another's heart finally reaped what she had sown. After that day, Chloe shamelessly came looking for Ethan several more times. Ethan either ignored her completely or simply refused to open the door, thoroughly crushing any hope Chloe had of reconciliation. Their relationship was a mistake, and Ethan didn't want to be endlessly entangled. Several months later, Chloe left behind a simple, I'm sorry, and completely disappeared from his world. Ethan quickly put his past with Chloe behind him. His company was expanding, and he was too busy to be distracted. Later, he heard from mutual friends that Chloe had gone abroad again and wasn't doing particularly well. And Ethan was also very busy. He was busy trying to win over a playfully mischievous, adorable woman. Life moved at a relentless pace, busy and interesting.